Guys, this is B, and I finally got my Xbox back, so I decided to make a video. I just got it back today, and what you're seeing right here is a little search and destroy with my old HS10s on Black Ops, because I felt like playing Black Ops, and yeah, this was like my 10th game or something, so, this is pretty good. I mean, I always do really good on this map with these guns, because well, these guns are awesome. I love the HS10s, and also I'm just really good at firing range in particular, so I've had much better games than this before, but still this is a pretty good one. This is a really good game. So anyways, this is episode, what is it, 6? Or is it 5? Whatever. It'll be in the title. This is another episode of how to actually get better at Call of Duty. So, what I want to talk about in this video is making sure you know what's going on around you. And this is something that a lot of people don't really do. The first thing I want to mention is always look at your minimap, because, if there's a UAV up, it'll definitely help you, obviously. Most people already know that, though. But the thing I want to mention is look for where your teammates are when you're looking at your minimap, which is something that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, where their teammates are. Now, this can be a very important thing, actually, and a lot of people just don't pay attention to this, but if you see that your teammate is like, if there's like 2 hallways or something near you, and your teammate's in one, then you know that no enemies are going to come from there unless he dies. And then if he dies, of course, you'll be looking at your minimap. You'll see him die on the minimap, and then you'll be able to just look over there and kill him. So, or at least try to get the kill, Maybe if you're not that good, you might not get him, or maybe if he just has an overpowered weapon or something, who knows. But yeah, use teammates to your advantage. Like, just look at where they are, and just imagine them as another wall. So if you look at them, just think of it as a wall there. No enemies are going to get past there, at least for the time being. And if someone does, then obviously you're going to see your teammate dying. You're going to know someone's over there for sure. But otherwise, just look at where all the places on the map that your teammates aren't. And those are the places that more than likely enemies are going to be. So head in the parts of the map where your teammates are not, if you want to go looking for kills. Or if you're just trying to stay alive, then look for the directions that none of your teammates are. If there's 3 teammates, or there's a teammate behind you, a teammate to your left, and a teammate to your right, most likely, the enemies are not going to be in those directions if you got lots of teammates back there. But, if you see that you've got, 2 teammates behind you and 2 teammates to your right, and there's no teammates to your left, then, and there's an open area over there or something, or some kind of area, another part of the map, then more than likely there's going to be some enemies over there. Maybe unless it's a really big map and that's just like a little building or something that's like in your spawn area. You know what I mean? If you're in the middle of a map, especially in small maps, then look in the directions that your teammates are not in, and especially buildings. Especially buildings, if you see that there is like maybe like 4 buildings in a map, and your teammates are in 3 of them, and one of them's, out on the other side of the map, and none of your teammates are even close to it, then most likely that's where the enemies are going to be. Because the enemies are not going to be near your teammates if your teammates are not dying. Of course, if you see your teammates are dying, well, obviously there's got to be someone over there. That's just common sense. So, if you see that happening, then go over there if you want to get some kills, or stay away from there if you're just afraid. Although I wouldn't recommend that. It's probably better if you just, go after the kills. So, another thing I want to mention is when you're shooting somebody, when you're shooting at an enemy, and there's some area behind you, even if you got a bunch of teammates back there, if there's any possible chance, even the slightest possible chance that an enemy could be back there, then make sure you watch your back. If you're shooting at an enemy and you got that open area behind you, or a doorway or a hallway or something, what you want to do is, if you see some kind of box or like a wall, tiny short wall just sticking out or something, any kind of obstacle, get in front of that obstacle, and it'll basically just guard your back while you're shooting at the person in front of you. So you can like strafe a little bit to the side while you're shooting enemies in front of you, and then make sure that your back is covered by some kind of wall or a box or something. And yeah, it's like, that'll help you out a lot. Usually it's good to do this if you like I said already, if you're shooting at some enemy. I mean, if there's just like one enemy in front of you, don't even bother to kill them. But if there are like multiple enemies in front of you, there's some behind walls or something, there's like a group of enemies there, maybe it's a spawn area, then if you're gonna post up there for a few seconds or whatever, then make sure that you have something behind you, because it's happened to me many times before, where I'm just standing in like a middle of a hallway or something, or I don't know, just some kind of pathway or a doorway even, or something like that. And I'll just be standing there, and I'm shooting at like 3 enemies, and I think there's no way some enemy could be coming from behind. But, you know, I end up getting shot in the back anyways because someone just sneaked around and flanked me. And even when you may think that there's not very high chance that someone's going to come from behind you, there's probably a better chance than you think, so it's better just to be safe than sorry, you know? Oh, by the way, this gameplay here, yeah, it's already part way into it, I forgot to mention, but this is a little gameplay with the M14 I got. This is actually, I get a really good score on this one, which is, I think is pretty cool, because it's kind of hard to get good scores with an M14 for a lot of people. I actually really like this gun. I don't know why more people don't use it. Probably just because it has so much recoil, but I think it's really fun to use. I'm actually pretty good with it. So, yeah, hopefully you like that. It's actually a really good score. So anyways, as I was saying, it may not seem very likely that someone's going to sneak up behind you and shoot you or knife you in the back or whatever. When you're in a position like that, you know, you got all the enemies in front of you, and you think there's no way someone can sneak up behind you, and even if you have a ton of teammates back there, teammates are pretty unreliable. I mean, you can use them as sort of like an indicator of where enemies are, like I mentioned before. You know, if you see someone a teammate in a hallway or something, then you know no enemies are going to be right there until you see that guy die. Or if he dies. Maybe he's actually good and doesn't die, but that's not likely. Most teammates are not very good. But, you know, if you have a bunch of teammates behind you, then still, you know, just make sure that you have something. If you're going to be standing in one place, I mean, you know, the thing I mentioned with the teammates, just thinking that, you know, if a teammate's going to be in a hallway, that you know, there's not going to be enemies there until he dies. You know, that only really applies if you're like moving around or something. But if you're like standing in an area for a few seconds or whatever, you know, I mean, you know, teammates will move around. They're not going to be in the same place for a few seconds like you most of the time. And then an enemy's going to sneak in there and shoot you in the back if you're standing there for like 10 or 15 seconds or whatever, just shooting at enemies. Or even longer than that, whatever. So in this situation, like I said, you wanna keep some kind of, if you're going to be doing this, you want to keep some kind of object behind you, a box or a wall or something. And then this way, even people sneaking up behind you will just like walk right past you, and you can just like shoot them in the back, most likely. You know, and even not if they like see you on like a radar or something, or maybe see you shooting on the radar, or maybe they have a UAV or whatever. Even then, it'll give you a better chance if they're coming behind you or whatever. Maybe you can hear them if you got a headset. Or maybe you can just you know, see them on your UAV or something if you have that. You know, whatever. It'll give you a much better chance than just getting shot in the back from, you know, right as soon as the guy runs around the corner and you don't even have a chance. Yeah, another thing I want to mention. Oh yeah. Okay, so when you're, like I said, you may not seem like there's much of a chance when, you know, people are going to sneak up behind you even when there's a bunch of teammates behind you. But like I said, there's probably a chance. I mean, I've seen this happen to me many times, and I get surprised, like, why is he there? But, you know, it's because, well, it's because he shot me in the back. That's why. He just sneaks around and shoots me in the back, you know. A lot of people will do that, and you may be surprised by how much it may happen to you if you're just standing in one spot trying to shoot enemies when they're, you know, in their spawn area or whatever the case may be, if they're just, like, all coming out of one doorway or something. But one thing to remember, obviously, this is pretty obvious, so maybe I probably don't even need to mention it, really. But if there's, like, just a room behind you that, like, you know, that all that's behind you is, like, a closed-off area, then of course don't worry about this. But when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about, like ways, if there's any possible way that someone can get from their spawn area into the area behind you, then, you know, you're going to want to watch your back. But on top of just, you know, making sure that you got something behind you, another thing to watch out for is, make sure that you actually turn around every once in a while. Because when you're standing in one space for too long, just like standing in one spot for too long, shooting at people, you know, once again, there's a pretty good chance that someone will sneak up behind you. Maybe they've got like ninja and or dead sounds or ghost or assassin or whatever, depends on the game you're playing. You know, if they've got that perk on, those perks on, then you're not going to know they're coming. So, you know, just every once in a while, you want to check behind you, every few seconds or whatever, just to make sure, because, you know, I mean, especially if you look on the radar and you see that there's actually like a gap in your teammates or something, a lot of the time, especially if you see one of them die, but, you know, if they got like a silencer or whatever, you might not notice it. look at that triple. Yeah. Um, but you know, once again, teammates are pretty unreliable, so just try not to get tunnel vision. That's another thing. It's pretty much what you're doing if you're standing in one space for too long without looking behind you, without checking your back. You know, if there's a lot of people in front of you, a lot of enemies in front of you, you may think like the whole team's there, but you gotta make sure that you don't get into tunnel vision, because that happens to a lot of people. Yeah, so tunnel vision. Yeah, that's I'm actually quite guilty of this myself. I'm pretty bad about tunnel vision. I actually do that a lot, and yeah, it's pretty. I've been working on it though. I've gotten a lot better at it. And one thing that's actually really helped me is the one in the chamber game type on Modern Warfare 3 on that free-for-all gunplay mode or whatever. Same thing would apply to Black Ops. Um, that has actually really helped teach me to learn my back, or helped teach me to learn. No, helped teach me to watch my back, because that's something that's really important. When you're moving around the map, you've got to always make sure that people are not behind you in that game type. You know, in that game type, I mean, I'd be constantly checking my back. I'd be checking my back every few seconds, and so much of the time there would be someone sneaking up behind me, because in that game type, it's like a lot more necessary for you to check your back. And then if you're playing that game type a lot, remember to always check your back all the time, and then play that game type. And you know, I mean, just play it for a while, play it for like a day, or play it for a few days or whatever, and you know, this will really teach you to check your back, you know, very frequently, because you know, there's often going to be people behind you in both in that game, especially in that game type, but also in Call of Duty in general. And a lot more lately, I've been just like, you know, watching my back very frequently, often turning around to see if anyone's behind me, and being generally a lot more aware. That game type has definitely helped teach me to be a lot more aware. So if you want to improve your awareness, I'd definitely try playing that game type, and playing it until you start getting good. And remember to always check your back in that game type, and then you'll learn to check your back in normal gameplay as well. And you know, it really helps. Another thing to watch out for is make sure. I mean, this one, you know, I hear a lot of people say, make sure you always check corners, because a lot of people who play Call of Duty like to are pretty attracted to the corners, if you know what I mean. They like to sit in them. So every time you're walking in a building, it's always a good idea to just give a quick glance at a corner. Sometimes it's hard to remember. I know you're just like running in the building, and then you know, you just don't expect it. But you know, if there's any corner that you know it's possible for a camper to be in, then you're definitely going to want to check it. Another thing you can use though is stuns or flashes, or anything like that, I guess. You can throw one of them in there, especially if you have Recon Pro. Especially useful if you have Recon Pro, or Tactical Mask Pro on Black Ops has the same effect, although it's not quite as good because it shows up on your screen instead of your little mini-map. It shows up as like this little yellow mark. But you know, that still works. It's still helpful. Shows you which side of the room the campers are sitting in, and you can rush in there and kill them while they're stunned or blinded or whatever. So definitely use that as an advantage if you know there's a room that people like to camp in. Because I mean, if you played this game long enough, or these games long enough, any Call of Duty game long enough, and you've played any one of the maps enough times, then you'll definitely learn what buildings the campers like to sit in. So, you know, if you see a building that campers are notorious for being in, and you see that none of your teammates are in there, then throw a stun or a flash in there. Especially if you have Recon Pro or Tag Mask Pro, and even if you don't, though, it'll still work fine. And if you get a hit marker, then, you know, just rush in there and try to kill them. And first of all, it's a way to get some good easy kills if they're stunned like that and they're just sitting in the corner. Definitely a good way to get some kills, and also definitely make you die a lot more or a lot less. Yes, it'll give you much better ratio, KD ratio. So yeah, it's definitely a good idea to do that. And just better all around if you just check your corners and use stuns and flashes in camper buildings. So yeah, that's about it for this gameplay. I hope you enjoyed, or this game plays, this video. I'll just say that. Hope you enjoyed, and subscribe if you want to see more.